You know what? You know what was in this that had my attention? It was my rapt attention was
Florence Pugh's ass.
No, her hands on that wet, juicy steak. Best looking fucking steak in cinema history. That got me aroused, my friend.
You know what I thought to myself? I thought to myself, that is a USDA prime steak right there.
Is that a Wagyu?
I was like, that's not choice. That is prime beef right there.
Boy, that was a nice cut of meat, I gotta say.
Yeah, that was a ribeye.
It was in there.
Prime ribeye.
There's at least 2 or 3 shots of that steak.
It was pretty good.
Getting rubbed and sizzling like, damn, baby, slow down.
Yeah,
you're rubbing it too fast.
Take your time.
Really get in there and knead the meat.
In a world of bad movies, 2 follically challenged men will stop at nothing to share their opinions of them. Their wives are tired of listening. But are you? This isn't the podcast you deserve, but it's the one you need. Prepare yourself for Bald Guys and Bad Movies.
Welcome to episode 34 of Bald Guys and Bad Movies. I am Troy, along with my buddy
Mike.
Hello, Mikey. How are you?
I'm great. How are you, my good friend Troy?
I see the beard is coming in.
It's coming in.
I should take like a screenshot and do like a montage just to see it
just
grow.
To show the progression.
Progression.
Yeah, totally.
Chia pet. This week we are reviewing Don't Worry, Darling.
Yes, we are.
How should that be said? Should that be said in a "Don't worry, darling," in a kind of retro, snobby, or?
You sounded more like Dr. Frankenfurter, like from Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's actually awesome. Okay. Love that movie. Love Tim Curry. Takes place in the 50s or 60s? Could you get a gauge of the actual time frame?
No, I think I couldn't really say. I mean, obviously I feel like it was kind of a modge podge. Like there were certain things that I felt like the look of the houses and everything was more of a like 60s to 70s sort of look. Mm-hmm. But the look of like the outfits was definitely more of a 50s to 60s sort of look.
Well,
and then yeah.
So let me give a brief synopsis because you could easily spoil this shit before we...
Mm-hmm.
Don't Worry, Darling is a 2022 American psychological thriller film directed by Olivia Wilde. The film stars Florence Pugh, Harry Styles, Gemma Chan, Kiki Layne, Nick Kroll, and Chris Pine. The film follows an idyllic housewife living in a company town who begins to suspect a sinister secret is being kept from his residence by the man who runs it. A la Stepford Wives.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was.
Very.
That's exactly what I was thinking when I first started watching it.
So would you recommend it?
Hell yeah.
As would I. Definitely will recommend it. I anticipated it being probably a good film, but I didn't anticipate liking it as much, and especially for the direction.
Totally.
I thought the direction was... Olivia Wilde just knocked it out of the park, dude. Like,
I was really surprised at how much I liked the movie, to tell you the truth. I think that might have something to do with the fact that I had I didn't know what to expect. Like I didn't really watch. I mean, I think I saw a trailer, but the trailer was so...
It didn't give away too much, I feel.
Exactly. Yeah. I thought it was pretty good.
So we say go see it, and we're gonna get right to the actual review because at any moment there's a spoiler landmine in this film.
Massive spoilers.
So do not listen from this point on. Definitely see it first.
Definitely see it
and for yourself.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so from that I'm just gonna say it's a sci-fi film. Like, you know what I mean? It's definitely a sci-fi film, and if you're into any sort of sci-fi psychological thrillers, like, you'd love it.
Well, and I'll say I figured out the twist like in the first 20 minutes, but I didn't figure out the extent of the twist.
Right. I knew something was going on.
I was like, it's going to pull a Village where they're not actually in the time frame, and it's this isolated community, and where men can be men and women can be brainwashed to being the women that the men want. But it's actually even fucking worse than that.
Hell yeah, it is.
Like
hell yeah, it is.
Should we even though we're in spoiler territory, should we go into the twist right now, or should we lead up to it?
I mean, my whole thing is like, really, they shouldn't listen to this episode until they've watched the movie. So I feel like we should get it. We can get into it if we feel like it.
Okay, just in a matter of order. I guess because the twist is the elephant in the room, basically. So
right, but I mean, ultimately, the twist, like, I thought they'd. Well, let's talk about the rest of it. Right? They did it, like you said. They did a great job directing it. One of the few things I didn't like was the weird sort of vision of the dancing girls thing that I felt like was kind of pointless. You know what I mean? And I didn't like the blood drop thingy, like when she like touches the window, the mirror. Like, I don't know. I thought that was kind of like a little too cryptic. Like, I don't know. It just felt a little, that I thought was a little kind of like, when that first happened, I was just like, okay. And then they went into this long thing of the dancing girls. And then I was just like, what is all this about?
You know what I mean? Caught at the end, near the end, you caught where that's from, though, right?
It like projected on the ceiling
around them,
but
for some reason.
That's what I'm saying.
Part
like,
of the
why?
hypnosis or the VR? I don't know. Because it looks cool, probably. It looks weird and freaky and surreal.
It did look weird, but I just thought it was kind of dumb, to tell you the truth. I thought that was the one thing I didn't like about it. But I really enjoyed this movie.
Yeah. I didn't mind that. I didn't mind any of that. Even the blood thing. It kept me, especially when it first popped up. She did a really good job of having imagery in those moments slowly bleed into her reality, right?
Yeah. They did a good job with that.
And like when she cracked the egg and there was nothing in it.
Yeah.
Like it's like, whoa, what the fuck is going on here? Right? She did a really good job of parsing that out, keeping you guessing. Florence Pugh did an amazing job. She was.
I was like, dude, when fucking Harry Styles comes in and fucking eats her out on the fucking coffee table, I was like, Troy's enjoying this part.
Well, at that moment, my daughter had walked into the room.
Oh
no! Right, and I'm like, oh, cover your eyes, close your ears. So there's those two sexual moments, and I had her cover up and whatever. She actually enjoyed it too. It's like she comes in when I want her to watch a movie, just me and her, or just
she doesn't want to do it.
But when I'm doing it for a podcast, she seems to get engaged. I don't know if that's just coincidence or she's curious to see what it is I'm going to review, and she ends up liking it because she ended up really liking this movie.
Well, that's the funny thing with Andrea. Like, I a lot of times can't, like, if I want to watch something just to watch it, like, hey, you want to watch this with me? She's like, what's it about? I don't know if I'm into it. And I'm just like, well, it's supposed to be a really good movie. Like, what it's about is less important than the fact that it's good. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to be a great cinematic experience.
And it's nice to not know what it's about.
Exactly. But if I'm doing a podcast and she knows I have to watch this movie, I'm like, I'm going to watch this movie one way or the other. Do you want to watch it? A lot of times she'll be like, okay, I'll at least sit down and watch it for a while. And then she'll just end up sitting and watching the whole thing.
Maybe it's the pressure of you're going to watch it with or without her.
Yeah.
So
she's like, I might as well watch it.
She's like, okay, if it interests me, then I'll stay. I think it's probably the same thing that's going on with Chloe, though.
But that's the funny is like I'm gonna watch the other stuff with or without her too. You know what I mean? Like I just want to know, do you want to watch this? Because if not, I'm watching it without you.
She enjoyed it, or
I don't think she actually. I think she was really tired. She fell asleep. She was really tired, and she fell asleep on the couch. But I think if she wasn't as tired, I think she would have enjoyed it a little bit more, but she thought it was a little slow, and it is kind of slow, but it's funny because in Smile last week, I talked about how I didn't like it because I felt it was slow. But I think the reason it was okay that this was slow was the acting was good. The directing was good. You know what I mean?
There's
like,
definitely more
I felt like
meat on the bone.
There's way more meat on the bone.
There's more stuff going on in terms of the story, and there's a lot more to keep you engaged.
Yeah, and just and the characters were just so fleshed out, and you cared about them, and they were interesting, and I don't know, and so I didn't mind that it was a little slow, but I did feel like it had enough to keep, and I like sci-fi so much more than I like horror. You know what I mean? Sci-fi is my thing, like horror is yours. Sci-fi is my thing, and I knew it was some sort of weird sci-fi thing going on.
While we're on performances, I don't know if you caught any of the controversy. There's been a lot of controversy with this
film. You gotta break that down in this episode because I don't know much about it. I just know that there was controversy on what it was.
Where to start? Well, what I was going to say was Chris Pine apparently, supposedly, I don't know if the filmmakers have said this, but it's based on Jordan Peterson.
Oh yeah, totally. I could see that.
And then Jordan,
for sure.
There was an interview.
He like cried about it or something, right?
He was crying over the fucking incels that he's the champion for. They just understand these guys are suffering. Like, oh fuck me, dude. Really? Okay. Well, anyway, I did know that much, that there was apparently a connection there. So I'm thinking, oh yeah, Jordan Peterson. Let's see how this plays out. But because Shia LaBeouf was originally cast in a Harry Styles role. And
really?
He was fired. That was the official story from Olivia Wilde. LaBeouf said, I was not fired, I quit. And it was all boiled down to...
She wanted that Styles dick.
Well, I think she was getting that regardless. But it was because Shia LaBeouf is a very... he's like Tom Hardy, where he's an antagonistic style of acting. And Florence Pugh wasn't really responding well to that, and Wilde didn't really like that.
I surprisingly liked Harry Styles in the role.
He was great.
I was expecting him to be kind of flat and be kind of like a lukewarm water, but he was pretty damn good. I was blown away.
The moment where I'm like, this is a really good performance. Like, this guy has range. There was two moments where he called the red suits on her. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What's the Korean show? What was the Korean show?
Squid Game.
It's the Squid Game guys. I was thinking Squid Game guys. And he was having that fuck, that.
Yeah.
The way he was breaking down leading up to that, I thought was really good. And then with the twist, when you see him in the real world, and he's this scraggly, out of work, fucking... Is he a loser, Mike? Like, because ultimately he's a piece of shit, right? Because of what he ultimately winds up doing. So, he's not an incel because he has a hot nurse. Is she a doctor? She's a doctor.
She's a doctor.
Doctor girlfriend. But yet he's a loser who can't...
I'll tell you the truth. You know what he makes me think? He makes me think that he was probably at one point had a decent job, had shit going on.
Right.
She had her shit going on. She was studying to be a doctor. She graduates, gets a good job, moves up, becomes a pretty...
The roles
big,
reverse.
And the roles reverse, and something shitty happens to him. Mm-hmm. He loses. I'm adding all this, right? Yeah. But I could see this happening. And I know people who have been in this situation, and they lose their job, and then they just get into this downward spiral of depression, and then feeling like they're too good to take this job or that job. And how they don't want, you know what I mean? They don't want to lower themselves to this. And then they always have some excuse to why the job that, isn't good.
Right.
They're not going to take it. And it just gets worse and worse.
And they're
worse.
resentful of their partner and she's working 2 shifts.
Exactly.
And he wants to bone. And she's covered in probably ER blood. And she needs to go to sleep because she's got to go to work in 6 hours. Which leads him to... what we find out at the end, what was it called? Victory? The Victory Program?
Victory Project.
Where basically you but here's the thing. Some people willingly go into
Well,
program.
we only know of one woman who willingly goes into the program.
Right.
There was only one woman who willingly did it that we're aware of.
Well, what about Chris Pine's wife?
No, dude. It didn't seem like she noticed. She realized. It seemed to me that once Florence Pugh, that's her name, right?
Right.
Once she realized, she started kind of like sparking the realization.
That's
and
true.
that's what it looked like to me. And then I think, and the reason I don't think the chick from Humans knew was because I felt like I could see realization on her face, and then she stabbed the motherfucker.
But that's interesting. I could see it that way. But what she said to him when she stabbed him was, "You stupid man. Now it's my turn."
Yeah. Sequel.
What I gather from that, you fucked it up playing this game with this girl, and she's fucked up everything. And at the dinner scene,
Could be.
she was fucking giving her the riot act
Yeah.
like a true believer. And
That's true.
the way I took it is that her husband, this is why the movie's good.
Yeah.
I took it as maybe it was her project, but she knew she couldn't be the one in control because these douchebag men, the men needed a man, a strong man, right? And it wouldn't be successful as a woman. So she had to prop him up as the real genius behind everything. But maybe she was actually the one in control.
Maybe. That's a very valid point. Like, and that's why I think it's such a good movie is because we can have this discussion and neither of us really have true.
Well, it could work either way, right?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
either way
Neither
it
of
could
us
work.
have like overwhelming evidence to one way or the other. You know what I mean? To either of our arguments. And it's just more of like what we read into the situation.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know. I think it was pretty fucking awesome. Like, and then when they like show her like strapped down in the bed, and he's like squeezing water into her mouth to keep her alive. I was surprised we didn't see like a tube in her
feeding
nose,
tube
a
or
feeding
something?
tube.
Yeah.
Like that's what I was. It should have been even more so. And you know what it made me think of? There's this episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation that actually had Ashley Judd in it. And when she was young, it was pretty, I think it was kind of early. I mean, I think it was mid show, right? And someone picks up this game that you play, right? And every time you beat a level, it's like this visual game. You put it around your head, it like puts these little dots, and you have to get these like balls into these like little funnels. And it's like, it basically what it is, it's like, it's something to get people addicted to the game. And then when everyone gets addicted to the game, then like the creators show up and they like ransack and try and like steal the ship and stuff, right? But it was really similar with like things over the eyes and little red beams like going into the eyes and stuff.
Dude.
But it was very, very similar look to it.
It was like shades of Clockwork Orange, man.
Yeah,
Like,
Clockwork Orange, yeah.
that was horrific.
It was.
And I was like, whoa, and it's a very subtle that you don't have to have a whole big rig or anything.
Yeah.
Just the fact that her eyes are being kept open and it's fucking lasers or whatever,
Yeah.
VR lasers beaming, wiping across it
Yep.
like windshield wipers. It's like, you are a fucking piece of shit. Oh man, he is so garbage.
I really like the interaction where he's like, I have to leave this, I have to leave this place every day to go, to make money so I can keep us here in this perfect, reality and stuff. And I was just like, you're such a fucking asshole, dude. Like, Jesus, you're trying to convince her why you should be thanked for basically like subjugating her. Like, I don't know. But,
this script was on the blacklist for a while, and I wonder. I'm not saying.
What do you mean? Why?
Well,
What do you mean it was on the like they didn't want to do it?
No, you know what the blacklist is, right? It's like scripts that are known throughout Hollywood as like really fucking good. They're really good,
no.
but for whatever reason, they haven't been made yet. Right?
Oh no, I didn't know what that was.
Oh yeah. If you're on the blacklist, that's like.
But when I think of blacklist, I think blacklist.
No.
You know what I mean?
In this context, it's actually really good. Like, for example, a Hot Tub Time Machine was on the blacklist for a long time.
That movie was pretty fucking funny, dude.
Everyone knew it was great, but no one could either wanted to try or attempt it or knew how to approach it. But I got WandaVision vibes a little bit. So I'm wondering how long this script was on the blacklist. If that's floating around, did someone like read that and did it spark some kind of like idea? Because the one wife, Olivia Wilde's character, her children weren't real.
Right.
And she was the one that was, we know for a fact she was there voluntarily because she said it.
Well, that kind of made sense to me because she was also like the most like, I don't give a fuck. Let's just do whatever the fuck we want to do. You know what I mean?
Right,
like,
right.
She all had this sort of like air of we can do whatever the fuck we want. It doesn't matter what the hell. Like, yeah, they might say this or that. We're gonna do what we got to do. But when it comes down to it, we're gonna do whatever the fuck we want to do. You want to buy that? Buy that shit. You want to go to the pool? Let's go to the pool. You want to stay there? Let's stay there. You know what I mean? Like, she was very like regiment, like very like we can do whatever the hell we want.
And but that's also a good distraction method, right? Like,
yeah,
whenever
absolutely.
someone started to quote unquote think, she would come up with some kind of like distraction or no, whatever. Forget about that. Let's go have drinks and sit by the pool.
Yeah, well, I guess a couple things that were a little weird to me, like, why did a plane show up in the sky? You know what I mean? Like, and she goes, like, which leads her off to find the thing. Like, I don't know. It was just weird. Like, I thought that was a little weird. At that point in the movie, you don't know what's happening, so you don't really question it. You're like, oh, yeah, a plane. Sure, a plane could fly over this fucking weird sort of isolated town, like, what, you know what I mean? But when you think back on it, you're like, why would that have showed up in the fucking, you know what I mean? Like the and then what are the explosions? What are the weird sort of earthquake things that happen periodically, like throughout the movie? I would have liked to know, you know, what those were all about a little bit more too, but it's whatever. You know, it's also just something you don't really need to. Because they didn't seem like they were needed. You know what I mean? Those earthquakes didn't really seem like they were needed to disguise anything or to make anyone think it was real. You know what I mean?
Right. And I wonder, it's one of those films, and I don't know if I'll ever watch it again, but watching it again would be interesting now that you know what the twist is and what's really going on. Going in with that information. Like the plane flying overhead could have been a real world plane. It's just that she's in her coma, her VR enhanced reality, but maybe there are elements of the real world bleeding in. The rumble. See, you could play this game all day long. Like the rumble. Right. I feel like anything that was like a huge anomaly like that had to have been something going on in the real world, and it was just being interpreted, or you know, it was coming through as something different.
I would think that, but Though for the airplane, I get it, because she was the only one who saw it, right? But for the rumbling, not so much, because everyone saw it, and they're all over the country, like, imaginably. You know what I mean?
Did
like,
the rumble happen when they left, the men left the portal? Was that like the I'm trying to think back.
Yeah, I don't think it was when they went in and out of the portal by any means, mainly because it happens like midday when they're off shopping. You know what I mean? And they've all, you know what I mean? It's just like midday. It just doesn't seem like a time that that would happen. So.
Yes, it's strange. It's like there's definitely stuff that was not explained. And that's stuff you could have explained.
And that's fun. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the plane was a huge thing. It was a catalyst to set her off to find like the actual portal itself. And the big rumbling thing, like the earthquakey thing, is a big deal.
It seemed like it should have been something. Otherwise, because it also felt like it didn't do anything. Like, did you feel that it like pushed the plot along at all?
I think
like,
I felt like
just them talking about what they do. Like,
in hindsight, after seeing the movie, it felt like just a red herring to throw you off the scent, because they mentioned, if you remember, there was a conversation about them potentially building weapons.
Yeah,
and it's set in like 50s, 60s, which is the atomic testing in the desert or whatever.
Yeah. Totally. I can see that.
Which is fine for the moment, but it is kind of like, you just threw that in there on purpose.
Yeah.
And it didn't serve any. Like, if this is a VR program and someone has constructed this, then
Right.
everything's in there for a reason.
Exactly. And that's why I was hoping to get some sort of a reason for it, but we didn't.
So what was the?
I still liked it.
Was the
you know?
rumble? So because if the rumble was to further convince them that it's weaponry, like, you got to give the mind something to chase. Because
Absolutely.
you're saying, hey, I can't tell you anything. So if maybe they laid out some clues for them, like the rumble was enough.
That makes sense.
Yeah. But if that was the case, wouldn't it make sense if the film near the end was somehow explain that somehow?
Yeah, something.
So I don't know. Just those 2 points, I think, should have been explained.
Yeah.
I get leaving things vague, but it was such, especially the plane. The plane was such a huge plot device, right?
But I tell you the truth, I feel like the plane didn't need as much explanation because it only happens once and it's so far removed from the end when you actually see it. Like, I felt like you kind of forgot about that being the thing that, you know what I mean? Like, you might still want to know why the hell there was a plane there, but I felt like because the rumbling was persistent, like all the way through the movie, it happened like 4 times, 5 times or something like that, maybe 4. Like, it really seemed like it should have been some sort of a thing.
Well, here's what I'll say. And even though I didn't mind them, but if you're gonna have, surreal shit like ballerinas dancing and blood drops flowing, you're gonna have those ambiguous things. Like, the plane could have been an opportunity to connect the dot to something real world, a oh shit moment. Like, oh shit, when she saw the plane, that's what was happening, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just to tie
Totally.
it to her, what's really going on. It just felt like a missed opportunity to do that.
Well, I feel like, and that's the difference between a good movie and a great movie. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like they know what can be left open and what they should wrap up. And I feel like a great movie, everything you see on screen has a purpose. Every single thing you see in a room has a purpose. You know what I mean? And so in movies that are good, you can still leave thinking, oh, that was a good movie. I really like that. But there's always going to be things that were like, well, that didn't make any sense. That didn't really matter. But I don't care that much. You know what I mean?
The other thing, I felt like, you're going to laugh. You're going to say, oh, of course you wanted it. But once the reveal is at the end and we realize these pieces of shit men have basically enslaved their wives in their mind, I felt like there should have been more sleaze, more, like a fucking orgy in the middle of it, or like, it tipped his hat to some stuff like that, but I almost felt like they probably could have gotten darker, because I think men that would do that would also, because did you notice Harry Styles in his real world apartment, he had a James Bond poster, a la, I think it was Sean Connery. So that swinging 60s, that machismo, that, I'm a ladies' man, martinis and fucking everything, and, not being held accountable for anything.
Sometimes all a woman needs is a good smack on the face.
Yeah, yes. And I feel like men...
Didn't Sean Connery say something like that at some point?
Oh, yeah. He said that shit in the fucking 80s. Circa the Untouchables. Barbara Walters. I know this because you could YouTube it, dude. Like, sometimes you just need a good smack. And she had him like, are you talking physically hitting? Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
What a crazy fucker,
you keep
dude.
pressing it. You keep pressing it, and sometimes a smack is the only way to deal with it.
That's some
You gotta
funny
watch
shit,
it,
dude.
I'm not condoning that, but it's amazing to see Sean Connery, actor who I respected greatly, just openly talking about wife abuse that way.
Oh, Jesus.
But
I mean, my whole thing is what I think they should have done. I could have seen some sort of like something like that. Did you ever watch like the first episode or the first season of like Handmaid's Tale?
I watched first 2 seasons, I think.
So there was like the orgy scene where like all the guys go to. I could have seen something like that. You know what I mean? To where there was like a group of women that they have locked down and they use just for that.
Well,
you know
there's
what I
that
mean?
moment when Styles is like, yeah, let's do it in his bedroom. He's at Pines' house, right?
Yeah.
And Pine slides in like a snake and is just kind of side-eyeing. Like, look, I'm not saying I want women to be ravaged because I want to see it, but it's more of a statement of these pieces of fucking shit men.
Sure.
And if you give them carte blanche,
I could have seen that.
if you're gonna strap your wife or girlfriend down,
Yeah.
like literally enslave her, then your moral compass is pretty fucking shot at that point.
Well, did you catch the part where it's like later on in the movie and he's like talking to someone about signing up for the Victory Project initially? And
On the computer, like in the real world?
yeah, and he's like talking to him like, oh, what his name is this, like chosen nationality is British.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
It ties into the James Bond thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it said preferred partner so and so. Who he already has, a relationship is already, he already has a relationship with her. So that leads me to implies some of these women don't have relationships with these people. They're just complete, like they just get kidnapped and shoved into this thing and their minds wiped to think that this guy is their husband. Like, holy shit. Like that fucking, I was like, that's fucked up.
It's rape slavery, dude. They're like sex slaves.
It's fucking insane, dude.
Yeah.
One thing I will say at the end, I felt like she did something that I thought was dumb at the very end. When she finally gets to the end and she puts her hands on the thing and she comes out, they have like this little montage of her like dancing around or something. And like the first they have her like breathe like she's waking up.
Well, the breath is the last bit. The dancing came before that.
So well, whatever that order was. So if you're going to show anything after that point, like show something. You know what I mean? Like I did not think that little stupid dancing montage was helpful at all. I thought that detracted personally. If you're not going to actually show anything happen, have her put her hands on the thing, have it do the blood drop, the eyeball, the girls, go to black, she takes a breath, credits. Don't show anything. You know what I mean? Just show that, just let us get the breath of her breathing that one time, she's awake, and we're done. Or the flip side, actually have her come out and like show her like, I don't know, a couple minutes of her like trying to figure out who the fuck these people are. You know what I mean? And then cut it.
Right.
Either way, I would have been fine with, but the way she did, I thought was kind of, I don't know. I thought that was probably one of the lamer parts.
And it could have been Wild's choice, her artistic choice, because she did take some artistic liberties. But it felt so, I'm with you. It felt so unnecessary and random.
Yeah, it was pointless.
And it took away the power of the final breath coming up for breath. I wonder if test screenings, audiences needed some indication that she was okay.
That's what the breath is for.
Well, but an audience could be like, well, what does that fucking mean?
Oh, fuck off, dude. Fuck off.
Because Wild has such a sure hand, in my opinion, throughout the entire film. Putting that there, especially at the end when you didn't need it, so much more poetic just to end it with a breath over dark.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I don't know. That's just me theorizing. It could have been her choice. Either way, it was a bad idea to put it in there. It didn't need it. Like, I don't even know what the fuck am I supposed to say.
Yeah. What am I seeing?
And because it happened before the breath.
She's dancing because she's so happy to be like, fuck that. She should be fucking angry as shit, ready to fucking chop some incel dicks off. You know what I mean? Like, what the fuck?
And that goes back to my point I made a couple points ago. This film felt like it wanted to be way darker. Mm-hmm. And again, I don't want to see the abuse of women. I'm not saying, but it's cooked in there in the plot. Right?
Well, I don't think it's you want to see it for the fact of seeing it. You want to see it because you feel like that's what's best for the film.
Well, this is what these guys would fucking do.
Yeah.
These are unrestrained assholes.
It sells it. It would sell it a little bit more.
Yeah. So, like the moment when Chris Pine saw them, I was almost thinking, oh, is he going to join in? Is there some shit that's about to go down here? And, if he did, and she reluctantly allowed it, but was fighting it, but went along with it, is that her free will? Or is that something they're manipulating her to do that, to be that kind of person, which is even more fucked up, right?
Yeah, it is.
And then, I was like, well, okay, this probably isn't in the era that it's supposed to be in because it's too multicultural.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, okay, what's going on here? So that was the first tip off that this is probably, I was hoping it wouldn't pull a village. You know what I mean?
Because, right. Yeah.
Let it be more to it than that. And I was pleasantly surprised. But it definitely felt very Stepford Wives. But I think it carved off enough originality. Like if the twist was just them kidnapped and, shock therapy, which is what in her mind was happening.
Right.
Or was that real? I don't know.
I don't know. I don't think so. I think that was in her mind.
Right.
I do think that was in her mind. I don't know for sure, but I think it was in her mind.
Oh, and there's like little things where near the end, once you realize what's been done to her, there's a little split. Is it when her memories start to come back the second time? But you see her being dragged. You just see her feet.
Yes.
And that's probably the moment that asshole gained control of her.
Yep.
Maybe, right? Or maybe it's many other occasions where, the jumpsuit guys came through. Like the process is interesting. They never got into it, which is probably a good thing. Less is more. But did everyone agree this is the ideal time period and for it to work?
I think it was more Frank. I'm pretty sure it was more Chris Pine's idea of what he thought was the best time period, but you could bring in things from really any time period because there was no sort of pop culture they had to reference it to. Mm-hmm. It was just like, oh, that's a cool looking car. That's a good looking dress. You know what I mean? Like, that's a great looking suit.
Then I'm thinking about it because they had some overhead shots of the community. It's formed kind of like a strange pattern. Did you notice
circle.
That?
It was like a circular pattern, kind of
a circle or a circuit. Like it was some the way the roads were. I don't know. I would have to go back.
Yeah, one thing I did notice was the roads were all curved when you see the models, because they do show the model a couple of times, and I was like, all the streets are curved, but when she's flying down the street at the end, I'm like, it's absolutely straight. And I was thinking to myself, well, that's a little bit of an inconsistency.
Movie magic is what they call it.
Who cares? You know what I mean? I'll let it slide.
Car goes vroom.
Exactly.
I did quite enjoy, but
I did like seeing Chris Pine get stabbed in the chest. That was pretty good.
Yeah, he was a fucking dickhead. And her wrapping her head in saran wrap, that was...
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, wow, how did they do that? I guess she actually did wrap her face, and there was people standing by in case she had a panic attack or couldn't get it off in time. That's got to be kind of freaky, though. You know what I mean? They
probably had a gesture she makes, or she could probably just, you know what I mean,
a sign or something like
that. If she needs help, And that's the whole thing. I was like, if you can't breathe, why are you trying to pull it off from the back of your head? That's what I was thinking. I was like, and you have those nice sharp nails, just pop the mouth open, take a breath, and then you could deal with getting it off your head, the rest of the way. But I thought that was kind of fun.
And the window cleaning scene was nice when the wall started to
I was
smash.
like, this is... Yeah, I thought it was kind of weird, though. I was like, I don't know.
So it makes me wonder if there's, at those moments, was it her psyche trying to break through, or was there something going on in her body in the real world that her mind's because you could be dreaming something and there's something going on in the real world, and your dream interprets it as something else. So it just enters your dream. So I wonder if there was some shenanigans. I don't know. Who the fuck knows?
I will say they did a real good job of making Harry Styles look absolutely awful in the real world. Like, I was like, God damn, like, he looks fucking horrible.
Awful with an American accent. Complete
Yeah, absolutely.
incel loser, even though he did have a girlfriend. But
Well, I thought it was funny. I was like, oh, okay. So they just had him British because he couldn't do an American accent like everyone else. Okay, that's fine, whatever. And then when they cut to him actually doing an American accent, it sounds fine. I'm like, oh, okay, he can do an American accent.
and again, the movie shot up several levels when that realization came. Like, even his persona, everything was so fine tuned to what he thought was ideal.
Yeah. Man, it was so fucked up.
Enslavement.
Yeah, it was just super fucked up.
Let's rate this bad boy.
I'm gonna give it probably a 4. Let's see what's a good thing. No, I'm not gonna say that. 4.
No, say it now. I want you to say it.
No, I'm not.
I can always cut it out. It's too awful. Is it racist or misogynistic?
Misogynistic.
Okay.
Yeah, for Harry Styles, Florence Pugh cunnilingus sessions out of 5.
Hey man, that was one of the first ones that popped in my mind when I was thinking about this. How am I rate this? Hey, it happened.
I was just thinking to myself, like, man, like, are they gonna like scoop that food off the floor and eat it, or like what's that? You know?
Leave it you to in that moment to be more concerned with the fucking food on the floor. Is that sad or frugal? I don't know.
I was like, all you had to do is like push it back a little bit. Like, you don't have to throw it on the floor. Like, fuck, man. Like,
wait. If you were hairstyles at that moment, you're like, what? Hold up, bitch. That's our goddamn dinner.
Probably
Gravy all
not.
over the floor. Bitch, you better clean that up right now.
I'd be like, what? You didn't have to do that. Well, I'll fuck it.
Once I finish eating, I want to eat.
Yeah. Like, I'm going to be even more hungry when I'm done. I was like, you didn't throw the roast on the floor, did you? I wanted some of those roasted tomatoes that you talked about. They sounded
ask
good.
you to calm down, bitch. Shit.
You asked me to calm down, bitch.
I feel like that's what a black couple would have done. Maybe you guys got a little bit of black in your lineage, Mike. That's the what the fuck, Mike? Because you break some plates.
Yeah.
Black woman gonna be whoa. That's my good China, motherfucker. Get up. Get off of me.
He must be very good at his job, like, so to speak.
All right, let me rate this. So I too will give it 4
for steak rub downs
for tap dancing, spinning Harry Styles.
That was a kind of weird.
And what was that about? Look at him
was
go! Look
weird.
at the boy go! Spin! Like, what was that?
That was weird. Like I'm saying, that's what I'm saying. Like, movies that I really like I'm more likely to tell you things I didn't think were great. You know what I mean? The things that stood out as wasn't on par with the rest of the movie, I felt like.
So do you think, so I'm thinking all kinds of shit now that occurred to me while I watched it. Do you think because at that point in the film, I felt like Chris Pine, who I got the impression was kind of bored with how easy it was with other people. And for some reason, Florence Pugh, like, elicited a response from him. Did he promote Harry Styles as a way to turn the screws on her?
I think so. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because that's what I was getting.
That's what I was getting, absolutely.
But that feeds back into what I was saying about his wife. His wife was in on this, and he was fucking around, being all coy and playful, and ended up fucking up the whole organization. That's why she killed his ass. Because that's just an impression I got.
Yeah, could be.
She called him a stupid, silly man. It wasn't, how dare you do this to me, or whatever. It felt more like frustration.
Yeah, no, totally. I could totally see that.
It was weird.
But tell you the truth, I kind of feel like this is one of those few sort of like artsy movies that I'd kind of like to see a sequel to. You know what I mean? Like, I would not mind seeing where this goes, in the future. You know what I mean? Like, what happens after she gets out,
Because now that it's exposed as a sci-fi thriller, you can Back to the Future to that bitch, right?
Yeah.
Really lean into the concept. Because they don't know where these people are. Like, unless you infiltrate the organization, and they could be spread out, whatever, right? Mm-hmm. So if she is on a mission to go in and save these people, what would you call it, though? Not Don't Worry, Darling 2. You better worry, darling. Shit's bad, baby. Put it in the 70s.
Shit's bad, baby.
Yeah, put it in the 70s. Shit's bad, baby. And in the midst of all this, Olivia Wilde gets served her divorce papers on stage at an event.
Right. I heard that's fucked up, dude.
So.
That's fucked up. Who is she married to?
Ted Lasso. Jason Sudeikis.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Who's he with now?
I don't fucking know. Once you with someone like Olivia Wilde, that's smoking hot, another level. You're in the Pete Davidson level.